I am here today with author Martha Black. She is the author of the newly released book, Little Missy. Thank you so much for joining us today, Martha. Why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about your book?
Okay, Little Missy is about a girl who has Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I was looking for something from my doctor. I asked him for somebody who would get a three diseases of somebody who would be in bed for a long time but would get over it. And so he gave me the three, and I researched them all, and I chose Little Missy. And so Little Missy had been in bed for several months, and she's in deep depression and just in bad shape. Her father, his wife had died at Brady sold him for zoo. And so he asked her, what could he do to help? That I need somebody to spend time with me, lots of time. And so he said, I will go to heaven and earth to make them happen. And so he does that. And so then the Sammy comes into the picture. She knocks on her door one day and just opens the door without waiting for it. Goes over and jumps up on her bed and says, I'm here to get you out of bed. And so she's kind of shocked, of course. And she reached the after, how are you going to do that? And she says, I'm going to do it with miracles, lots of miracles. And so that's kind of what the book is about. It starts with her making where she's just like in a great big hole of darkness and depression. And Sammy is such a joy. And she's like a joy-filled slave driver who gives her all these miracles that she has to work her way through. And so it's like she comes up, out of that, to a mountain, and at the top of the mountain is hope. And so that's where she goes. The miracles are very simple, but it changes Little Missy's life. And the first miracle that she had her bed moved over by a window, threw back the curtains, opened up the window, and fresh air made her deeply breathe fresh air several times a day. The second miracle was also just very simple. It was the miracle of observation. And she said, look out the window, tell me what you see. So I see grass and trees and sky. That's all I see. No, and so she made her understand that she had to see everything that she could see. And what they did, it began to change Little Missy's brain from all this depression. She had something that was working, to change her. And so it actually began out of this deep valley, it's gradually up to a mountain of hope. And relationship, girl, was amazing, to form, because the first conversation we had after she jumped up on her bed, very, very awkward, because Little Missy had heard the nurse and our housekeeper gossiping about Sammy and her family. And so when they got through that, that's when they really began to bond. And it was just such a deep closeness in them. And Little Missy was she just came. Her father kept raving about, I can't believe the different you before she came, and now, and they would process it all. And so it was just really amazing. Although the miracle were huge, although you see it with the miracle exercise and miracle of love, and one day she was supposed to get a big miracle and it rained and she didn't get it, and so they get miracle patience. Just things like that. And then the big miracle was miracle moving in a wheelchair. But then it's her chariot, they call that her chariot, where they went all over everywhere in their chariot. And anyway, and then the last miracle, and so she doesn't actually walking on her own land in the book, but she's walking on parallel bars. Well, that's one of the miracles.
And what was the inspiration behind, putting pen to paper and getting this book published?
Well, that's not hard for me to say, because I really do feel like what I do comes from the Lord. And I just got this idea in my head, about doing a book by somebody who was in bed for a long time. And, then she got out of bed. And so that was kind of, it's not like I feel like he dictates the book to me, it's not that at all. And this is the only children, I've done lots of children. This is the only children's book I've done that was chapter. And I literally know from one chapter to the next one it was going to be. But it was just like it just evolved. And I never ever felt writer's block. I struggle with spelling. I struggle with sentence structure. Not the story. The story always, when I put my fingers on the keys, it's like it just flows. It flows off the paper.
Wow, that's amazing. And if you were, to tell your audience one thing about your book that you really want them to understand about it, what would that be?
I think probably that would be to find hope. Because no matter how deep and dark your situation seems, when there's hope, you've got something to fight for. You've got something to get up out of the bed for, you wake up in the morning for. And I think that's so important. And I think children, this is a preaching book. And I think children need to know that no matter what the situation is, there's a way out. And it takes patience and working. But maybe their miracles will come in the way. Things like little Missy did. But it's that's kind of what I want to get out of it. I want to see it in different. I took the book. I told you I was a doctor. I took the book to the doctor after I finished, and he read it, and he wrote down a one word. It was a big long word. I think it started with an F. Now he can't remember what it is. I can't remember what it is. But when I looked it up, it meant it could have happened just that way. So.
Well, thank you so much, Martha, for joining us. And this is truly a book of hope and inspiration. And Little Missy is out now, ready for purchase. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It comes in paperback and ebook versions. Thank you so much, Martha, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.